Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm excited to have on Sophia and I, aka Sophia the Herbalist. Welcome to the show, Sophia.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
You know, I first learned about you, as I'm sure a lot of folks do, is via your YouTube channel. So I'm excited to have this conversation. You've got over 20,000 subscribers, which is super impressive. I want to chat a little bit about YouTube with you later, but for now, why don't we get to know Sophia a little bit more? How did you get into this whole herbalism thing?
Oh, great question. I think that's a question I get a lot when people say, "What do you do in life? What's your career?" And I say I'm a herbalist. They're like, "What is that? And how did you get into it?" So I've answered that question quite a lot. But I've always been interested in the human body. I really wanted to be a doctor when I was younger. I went to college. Well, not college. I went to university. I think you guys will call it college.
That's right.
And I I went to study medicine, as you do, to become a doctor. And I loved it. It was great because I was still learning about the human body and how it behaves in health and disease. However, I was really called to look at other methods of healing. So before I went to uni, I actually took a gap year. And in that gap year, I found my faith. I became a Christian. And I just started learning about the way God wants us to look after ourselves and all of the herbs that He's provided. So I guess that was in my mind partly, even when I went to medical school. So just before I was supposed to go into second year, I made the decision to leave uni and to find another route. And that's when I got into herbal medicine. And it was also new to me, but it was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
So you're a Christian now, and I presume you read the Bible somewhat regularly. Are you noticing herbal truths or nutrition truths when you read the Bible at all?
Definitely, like it's all over the Bible as a concept, and especially the way that we've been given these wonderful bodies that do amazing things. And you know, I guess it's our duty to keep it in the best condition we can.
It's our temple.
You know, so exactly that.
Just for the listener out there, I interviewed a couple months back. The episode hasn't been published yet, but it's Naomi Kilbreth. She's an herbalist based in Maine. She has a podcast called the Family Herbalism Podcast. And just for you to know, Sophia, as well, definitely one to listen to, because she's also has the Christian faith and talks a lot about that between herbalism and Christianity. So just want to get it on your radar. Yeah. So, well, thanks for sharing your story. Who have been some of your herbal mentors?
So, I guess my first mentors were those that I was taught by in university. So I have a few. My first were my teachers, so like the program leaders, those who taught us the Materia Medica. One of my favorite teachers, his name is Colin Nichols, and he is a brilliant herbalist. And also somebody called Paul Michael. I actually learned about endobiogenic medicine. I think we might speak about that a bit later.
Sure.
But they introduced me to endobiogenic medicine, and it made me understand herbal medicine a bit more and how to apply it to people when I see them and I'm trying to treat them. So those, have been a couple of my mentors in real life.
Since you mentioned it, you said endobiogenic medicine. I actually don't know what that is. Can you explain that to us?
I'll try and explain it in the best way possible.
Sure.
But it's a system of medicine that is similar to functional medicine. It basically looks at the human body as a whole system, a holistic system. So I think as herbalists, we kind of learn to look at the body in that way anyway, rather than kind of reductionist, compartmentalized. It looks at the body as a whole system, and it focuses on the endocrine system, hence the endo part of the name, and the autonomic nervous system as the main controllers of the body. And when somebody presents with disease or imbalances, it looks at those two systems and sees where the problem lies. And then it looks at the different hormones in the body, so the endocrine system, not just the amounts of hormones that you might present in your blood serum. It looks at the activity of those hormones. So not just how much estrogen you have, but what that estrogen is doing in your body. And then also it looks at the hormones in relation to one another.
Okay.
So, for example, you might go to the doctor and, be having some problems, and you get blood tests and it shows that your estrogen levels are fine. Your estrogen levels are fine. But if you think about that, it doesn't really matter what your estrogen levels are. It matters what they are in comparison or relative to other hormones. So your progesterone levels might be so low that your estrogen levels are seeming like they're really high because the comparison is so huge. So it really looks at the hormones in the body in relation to one another and looks at that as the main kind of controller of health and disease. And then of course we use plants to treat whatever it is that we find.
Kind of reminds me of it does actually. What I was picturing in my head was like, say, the omega-3 to omega-6, etc. imbalances. So if you have like a lot of omega-3s, but at the same time you have way more astronomically high of the other omega acids, then you potentially could be out of balance. So is it kind of similar to that, would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's all the relativity of things in our body.
Fascinating.
Exactly that.
So you're focusing on a couple of the different bodily systems, but you also said you're treating the client as a whole person. It kind of reminds me of a lot of people say in the States, they call themselves vitalist herbalists. Have you heard that term before?
I haven't. Sounds interesting though.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just based on what you've described there, it sounds very similar to vitalism, treating the person as a whole being as opposed to just like looking at individual, problems and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly that. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you should check it out. I'd say a good person to look into might be, do you know Paul Bergner?
No, I don't.
That's a name
that last name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's written a bunch of books and he's been an herbalist. So there's this concept of master herbalist or whatever. He kind of has a tongue-in-cheek class title called How to Be a Master Herbalist in 50 Years. So it's
wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of like 10 years ago his class was How to Be a Master Herbalist in 40 years. So anyways, just to say that he's been doing this a long time, written a bunch of books. Definitely recommend. I'm sure a lot of the HerbRally listeners have heard of Paul Bergner, but Sophia, definitely look into his work.
I will. His name does sound familiar.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned a couple of your mentors. Just out of my own curiosity, what is the herbal scene like where you live in the UK? Is there is it pretty accepted? Do you have your own little herbal crew that you hang out with, or are you just kind of weird hippie?
Sometimes I think people can see you as that.
Yeah, totally.
It's really easy to, but I think the scene is growing. I would say when I first went to study herbalism back in 2012, it wasn't as well known as it is now. I'm not saying by no means it's really popular and everybody knows what it is and accepts it, but definitely it's growing in acceptance. A lot of people are looking for alternative methods of healing and health, and I think the world has become so much more connected, like through social media and stuff. So people have heard of ashwagandha and ginseng and the really popular herbs, so it's getting exposure.
Yeah.
And I think people are, I guess, accepting more that it is a smart system, a sophisticated system, and it works. It's been used for years. So it's not just a kind of a nice thing to do that might work or it might not work. It actually does work.
Yeah. As humans, we've been using herbs for a long time. It even says so in the Bible. I mean, so there
exactly.
you go.
Exactly that. And then,
awesome.
I have loads of herbal friends. Like when you go to university and after you join like some of the the associations. There's a lot of events where you can meet other herbalists and get to know them.
Just a quick break from the show to let you know about our Herbalism freebies. So if you'd like to get a bunch of ebooks, herbal community discounts, videos, audio lessons, all the above and more, you could go to herbrally.com, and at the top of the navigation menu, you're going to see a button that says freebies. So when you fill out that form, you're going to be signing up for our email newsletter, and in exchange, you're going to get a ton of Herbalism freebies, and you're going to love the email newsletter because it updates you on Herbalism events, new YouTube videos, etc. So I know you're going to love it. So thank you so much. And now back to the show. What city are you in?
I'm in a place called Bedfordshire.
Okay.
Might not be known, but I'm originally from London, East
Gotcha.
London,
Okay.
and I'm about an hour or so north of London now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you live on kind of land or anything? Do you have like a bit of a homestead or anything, or?
I don't, but that is
No?
my dream.
Yeah,
That is
totally.
my ultimate
Same.
goal in life. Yours too.
Oh yeah, we live
Yeah.
on 0.1 acre, which, you know, I'm very
Oh,
grateful for that 0.1 acre. Amanda,
yeah.
my wife and I have been gardening it lately, and it's just turning into this beautiful little plot of land. And yeah, I just love it. So
Wow.
just thankful to have any bit of, you know, space to work with. So
100%.
yeah, as long
I
as you
think
have
so for
access to the
someone,
nature.
exactly. I think for someone in where I live, having 0.1 of land would be a dream, I guess,
Yeah,
compared to America's really big. So
totally. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I guess it's all about perspective. Well, I
yeah.
would love to talk to you about your YouTube journey. I mean, so
Mm.
HerbRally, we're fast approaching 10,000 subscribers. And
Congratulations.
thanks. Yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. And, you know, HerbRally existed pre-YouTube, and it was kind of always a dream of mine to put video content out there. The podcast has been going since 2017. We've been listing
Mm.
herbalism events since 2015. And we were, I feel like, quote unquote, late to the game as far as YouTube goes, but really, it's never too late to start a YouTube channel. I'm just kind of
No.
curious, right? I mean, when's the best time to plant a tree? It was like 20 years ago. Next best time is today.
It's
Um,
now, yeah.
just curious because I want to say you started your channel maybe 6 years ago. What was the original reason for doing it? Did you just want to get your thoughts out there, or was it to market yourself as an herbalist?
Well, no, I mean, I think it did start to uh, so what it started out of as it developed into different things and different reasons. But I think the main reason why I started it was because when I went into herbalism, I think I mentioned before, I knew nothing really about herbs. I grew up in the city. I didn't know people use plants for medicine. And when I went to university, I was surrounded by some people that had grown up in the countryside and whose grandmothers had used herbs and all of that stuff. So I guess I was coming from a place of no knowledge, and I knew that there were so many other people in the world that had absolutely no idea that plants could heal and that they could be using plants for medicine, for health, and for maintenance as well as healing. So I really felt the need to share that with people and to give people a chance to know. Because I think it's such a great knowledge that everybody should have a chance to know. So that was my main reason for starting YouTube.
So I have two interviews today. One is with you, and then the other one in a few hours, I'm going to be interviewing this guy named Tad Hargrave, and he does this. He has a business called Marketing for Hippies, which is kind of funny to think about those two, you know, those two words side by side. And as I'm doing research on interviewing him, he's talking about marketing doesn't necessarily have to be inherently evil. What you're doing, Sophia, is you created this channel to promote this idea of sharing herbal knowledge, and in a sense you're marketing this concept, and I think it's really cool, and you've reached so many people, and you've created this wonderful community of viewers who are now maybe a lot more inspired to work with the plants. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Sometimes it does seem like the two can't work in unison, but they go perfectly together. And especially when it's coming from the place of genuinely wanting to share plants with people and wanting to help people. I think most of the herbalists that I know, they want to help people in some way. So that market, I think it's really important not to shy away from putting it out there, putting yourself out there. I know it can be hard sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not to shy away from it. It's perfect. They go perfect together.
Absolutely. So let's say there's a budding herbalist and they're like, this YouTube thing might be for me, but they're a little nervous or scared to, put their face all over the internet in video form. Do you have any advice for those that want to create a YouTube channel?
I think, well, two things. That if for anybody starting a YouTube channel, and I need to take this advice myself, is to go get your reasons why, or it could be reasons or reason, and have that written down somewhere so that on your YouTube journey you can always refer back to it. Because sometimes it's easy to get lost in when you're seeing so much other content. Like, we're such big consumers now, you're seeing so much other content, you start to sometimes unknowingly get lost in it all and forget what your why was. So have your why written down so you can always refer to it. And always be consistent. So that's one thing I've lacked. I have not been consistent. I might have a video once and then I'll have a 6 months later and then maybe 2 years later. It's been a rocky journey for me, just with like other life things happening and sometimes falling out of love with making videos. But the consistency is key, because that's when you build a community. People start to expect you and start to, I guess, build a friendship with you. Though you may never have met them, you start to become like a trusted friend in people's lives. So definitely be consistent. And to the point you made about not wanting your face all over, the internet, I know that can be a bit daunting, but there's so many other ways for you to make videos without putting your face out there, because I don't think you necessarily need to put your face out there. You can get your creative flair and just show your hands. You can make voiceovers and show recipes and stuff. There's so many other ways to make videos without showing your face. So don't shy away from it.
That's such a good point. One of my favorite cooking channels, it's called Food Wishes. I'll link to that in the YouTube description. It's with Chef John. I want to say he's got 3 or 4 million subscribers or something like that. And he's been doing this for 15 years or so, and he never even shows his face. It's literally just the pan and it's his personality and his expertise that draw you in. And I don't think I've ever seen, besides like his profile picture, I don't know what he looks like really. So absolutely. I love your point about your why as well. Have you heard of this, like, say, like a self-help thought leader, if you will? His name's Simon Sinek. He's got a book.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a book called Start With Why. And I a lot of my life I roll with that theory, and I think it's so important. Like, currently I'm actually on a weight loss journey, and the reason isn't shallow or vain. My why is because I want to play basketball and not mess up my knees. So like, I have a very specific why, and it keeps me consistent and staying on top of it, because it's a strong enough why to continue doing it. So I really appreciate that about your advice.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's a great motivating factor to keep you, because sometimes when you are going on whatever journey it is, whether it's your weight loss journey or your YouTube journey, you will get those you have your peaks, but then you have your dips as well. And sometimes in those slumps it's hard to kind of get back on track, and you might start to think, why am I doing this anyway? But if you go back to your why, then you'll always be able to get back up.
Amen. Well, you mentioned your lack of consistency recently, but I have to say you have a somewhat of a good excuse. I mean, you just became a mom for the first time, I want to say, maybe a year or so ago. So what is life like for you these days? I know you're a mother. Are you still practicing as an herbalist? Just kind of paint us a picture of what life looks like as Sophia the Herbalist today.
So life is how can I say? My baby, she's 14 months now. She just turned 14 months yesterday, actually.
Cute.
So it's still a bit chaotic. I think before you become a mum, you think this maternity leave is this really neat little thing, and then once it's finished, you're straight back to how you were before. And it is nothing like that. I'm taking it one step at a time, basically. I am a friend and I run a clinic part-time in London, and I'm back working there now, but I'm not really there much in person. I do a lot of the work from home and handle a lot of the orders and online consultations. So I am back practicing only very, very recently, but it is much slower and definitely not in the same capacity that I was before. But I'm learning to accept that.
Yeah.
That's part of my journey. That this is a phase, and this is how it is for now.
Okay, so this clinic, is that like an herbal clinic?
Yeah, we run a herbal clinic and dispensary
Nice.
in London.
Okay. So is that kind of your main gig then? You're dispensing herbs, you're seeing clients, and that's kind of how you make a living as an herbalist?
So sort of, that's my plan to fully make a living. Before I had a baby, I used to work for a tea company. It's a really popular in Britain. It's called Twinings, and
I've heard of that.
You have?
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
cool.
Yep. I know that
They are
brand.
in America too.
Okay, yeah.
I acted as my role there was a herbal advisor. So I would educate the company about herbs and help with their production of like the medicinal kind of herbal teas there. So that was my main gig. And since coming back from maternity leave, I decided to leave to focus on being full-time mother. So it's a big decision. It's not the easiest decision, but it's always been my main my priorities. I've always decided that my priority was going to be my baby and to be a full-time mum.
Absolutely. Sophia, have you ever heard of a company called Mountain Rose Herbs?
Yeah.
So I worked for them for 11 years. So we both have that
Really?
tea company background. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh, I
wasn't
have.
Yeah, I wasn't an educator for them. I was I was their events and marketing, one of their marketing people. So
Oh,
um
wow. That's brilliant.
but you're right, you've got this fun job working for a really well-known company and then deciding to quit,
Yeah.
which I did as well a couple years ago, and it's
Yeah.
definitely a difficult decision. But would you say you followed your heart, and do you kind of like live your life that way?
Yes, I think I definitely followed my heart. I try to live my life that way. And I guess I also back to the whole why thing.
Mm,
When you have a strong foundation of like why you do things and what you want the outcome to be, that kind of makes all the decisions for me. So even though they're hard decisions, they're already made because of the why. So my why is always I want to be my child's first teacher,
yeah.
100%, and I don't want to miss any of her growing up. So that made it a no-brainer to leave. So it was hard, and I thought I could try and juggle, but in the end, I thought, yeah, realistically, I won't
Yeah.
be able to do both. So yeah,
Does a lot of it kind of come from prayer for you as well?
yeah, 100%. Um, whenever I'm making tough decisions, like especially the one to leave university and medical school, prayer is the what guides me. And I, I pray about it and I read, and I believe the Holy Spirit impresses me and helps to lead me in the decisions that I make.
Absolutely. All right,
Mm.
so new mother, how are you incorporating herbalism into like rearing your child, and is she starting to see kind of the magic of the plants and all that?
Yeah, it's funny because when we go out, like when we're in nature and stuff, and then maybe your children are like this, probably like naturally, but she's always going for the herbs, and she knows to put it to her nose because I'm always smelling stuff. So the first thing she does is put it to her nose, and she doesn't really want to get involved. And I think becoming a mother and has really pushed me to start looking at herbs for children more. I mean, it was always kind of there in the background, but I was really used to treating adults, and myself. But it's really pushed me to understand in not just in theory, but practical ways how to use herbs on children and the different methods to give it to them and how they're going to take it. It's funny, I call my baby's called Eden Willow, by the way. And
Adorable.
thank you. I always call her like a chamomile baby because when she was first born, she had a few, the usual infant colic, and she would scream and cry, and it was really stressful. And I didn't really know what to use on her. I did use some teas, but it was hard to kind of get the teas in her.
Hmm.
So I just came across something at home. I had a chamomile aromatic water. And I've had this like, just for a few months, and I haven't really found use, or I know it's useful, but I haven't really found use of it myself. And I thought, this is perfect. It was in like a little spray atomizer. So I started spraying it in her mouth before she would feed and just in between feeds. And it really helped. And to this day we have it and we use it for just calming her down, helping her gut if she needs. She actually likes it. The way she asks for it, she can't say chamomile yet, but she calls it because of the sound that it makes when you spray. She's like,
Mom.
and she points to it. Mama.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think she knows that smell. We came across chamomile in the field the other day, and I think she links the two because the smell is so, obvious. Chamomile, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and actually, so we tried starting our garden last year and we failed because the rabbits ate everything. But this year we're kind of fencing things off, and actually in our front yard we have some chamomile blooming as we speak.
Wow.
So yeah, and that was always one of my daughter's favorite plant allies too. Maybe she was a little older at the time, but she was drinking chamomile tea before bed and everything. And so yeah, it's definitely a plant ally for my daughter. By the way, I gotta say, so your daughter's middle name is Willow?
So it's her first name, so it's like a
Really?
two-part name. Yeah.
Oh,
we normally
that's
just
cool.
call her Eden for short, but it's Eden Willow.
Eden Willow. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Did you make that up?
Well, I guess I brought the two names together. So Eden, like the Garden of Eden.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I love willow, the meaning of willow, like the willow trees, they're able to survive and thrive, and even in the hardest conditions. And I thought that meaning is so beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it was her middle name, my daughter's middle name is Sage. I really thought it was important to have like a plant as a middle name, and I also like the double meaning of a wise person. But yeah, so Amelia Sage, yeah.
Oh, that's such a lovely name.
Isn't that nice? Yeah, it's got that nice old school name with the one syllable. Yeah, plant middle name. Yeah, exactly. So,
wow.
Well, so you mentioned the chamomile water. I'm curious, is that a hydrosol?
Yeah, that's a good question because I know there's so many different names. I don't know sometimes if they're synonyms or slightly different, but yeah, like a hydrosol. So it's like the byproduct of essential oil making. Yep. Yeah.
So in the United States, we call that hydrosol. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So they're synonyms.
Yep. Mountain Rose Herbs actually does sell a chamomile hydrosol, and I love that one. I like the rose one quite a bit as well.
Yeah. And I think because they're really gentle, sometimes when you might want to avoid, I mean, I still think it's fine to use tinctures and things on babies, but sometimes when you want to go the gentle route and just, I think hydrosols or aromatic waters are perfect because they're effective, yet they're gentle, and you can use them externally and internally.
So I say this quote quite a bit on the show, but Jim McDonald, another herbalist in the U.S., says gentle does not mean weak, and I think chamomile is like one of the perfect portrayers of that saying.
Oh, I love that. I really love that because there are so many gentle. I'm looking at herbs for children at the moment, and I'm trying to, make something, that other people can use and reference. And I use that word a lot, gentle. But I love that gentle doesn't mean weak at all.
Totally.
Yeah. Who said that? I definitely need to reference that.
So Jim McDonald, lowercase j, lowercase m, lowercase c, or d, I should say, and he's a Michigan-based herbalist, so also a fellow Midwesterner such as myself. So
yeah. Oh, perfect.
Not sure how well you all know the geography of the U.S. or not, but
so I'm nodding as if I do, but I am. I am starting to learn geography a bit more in the States. I love my favorite pastime is to look at the map and the globes.
Oh, cool.
I just find it really interesting. So yeah.
I'm not throwing shade at you. What's that?
Is it anywhere near Arizona?
Oh no. So Arizona, we call that the Southwest. So I'm from the Oregon, which is the Pacific Northwest. Then you got kind of Arizona down lower, and then Midwest is like towards Canada, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And right in the middle of the U.S. But But yeah, all right, we're doing a
Yeah.
little geography lesson here.
I'm definitely going to go and look at the map after this. So
And definitely do check out Jim McDonald's work.
I
Again,
will.
a lot of the HerbRally listeners know who Jim is, but herbcraft.org is his website. He's got tons of great writing on there. I'm particularly fond of the Calamus blog post he wrote. But there's
Oh,
lots of,
calamus.
yep. Do you work with Calamus at all?
Yeah, well, I have it in tincture form. But I know it's not such a really popular herb here.
Hmm.
So I love when I hear the name because yeah.
Yeah, so Jim McDonald's a huge advocate of calamus, and he likes to chew on the root which I think is really
Mm.
cool. A lot of herbalists, you use teas, tinctures, but there's this whole concept of chewing on the herb as well, and he really likes to chew on the calamus root.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant because I think people always try to find these easy methods, or I guess the methods that seem convenient,
Yeah,
but chewing the herb because I do see herbs as food and food as herbs. There's a big crossover, so that's such a great way to take it in.
totally. Well, going back to Eden Willow, another one of Amelia Sage's favorite plants. I remember she would always love to smell the lemon balm. Does Eden Willow have any other, like, say, plants she's drawn
Favorite
to?
herbs.
Yeah.
Trying to have a,
What are
a
the kids
think
into these
now.
days?
I know. I don't know which herbs. She I guess she likes whenever I'm drinking a herbal tea, she will always ask for some. Like, she's got this. I try to teach her the baby sign language. So everything I put to my mouth, she's like more, more. She
Yeah.
wants to have some too. So at the moment, I'm drinking. It's funny. I'm drinking like a nursing tea just to kind of
Hmm.
help with breastfeeding. It's got like mainly nettle and raspberry leaf and stuff, and she loves it. She tries to drink as much as me. I don't let her have too much, but she she kind of like anything that has a green taste.
Hmm.
I've noticed that with her. So nettle, maybe I could say nettle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does the formula have fenugreek in it perchance?
it does. Yeah,
That stuff works. Like I've
it
heard stories
does.
of how effective that. Obviously, I've never had personal experience with that in that regard, but
Yeah.
but no, I've seen and heard friends talk about how effective fenugreek alone can be with that
Yeah,
formula. So yeah,
100%. Like
yeah,
you don't even need a lot of it. It works instantly.
yeah, absolutely. What other current plant allies do you have? What have you been fond of recently?
Recently, I've been fond of thyme.
Mm,
That's been my go-to at the moment, just because I've had some respiratory issues since I think about November time. So that's the time where it really gets cold in England usually, and that's when we might start turning our central heating on. We moved into a new place last summer, and when we turned the heating on, I just immediately started to cough and have wheezing and kind of
mm,
asthma-like symptoms, and it's been there since. It has slightly improved, but it's definitely something I've never had before, and I just know there's a lot of inflammation on my lungs. So thyme has been my ally, and in different forms. And I've got the plant juice. I don't know if you use plant juices.
no, well, I mean, I've had some plant juices before. I can't say I've ever had a thyme juice before, if that's what it
Yeah,
is. Are you running
yeah.
that through the juicer?
No. I mean,
Oh.
I wish. Maybe I'll get to that point one day.
Sounds
I buy
intense.
it. It's just yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's this brand. It's called. I think it's called Salus. I think it's a German brand, but it's they do like common plant juices, nettle, thyme, plantain, and the thyme one is really nice. And I'm using that. I'm using thyme tea and also thyme tincture. Anywhere where I can get thyme in, I'm using at the moment.
Totally. Well,
Mm.
dear viewer, if you're watching the YouTube video, please leave in the comment section if there's like a US based plant juice brand that you're aware of, because this is new to me, so that's really cool.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds like you're pretty much a full-time mother at this point. Are you still, besides the clinic, are you still making a living, would you say, as an herbalist, or?
I think I'm in between.
Okay.
I'm trying to incorporate practicing back into my life. So having more consultations because that's where my living will come from.
Yeah.
And I'm also trying to I guess, look at different avenues, because I think first and foremost, I'm a herbalist, but my passion lies in teaching, and I
Mm,
want to teach people. And because that's something that I want to get into more, I know that's where I'm gonna need to make my living. So in teaching people in whatever way possible, through workshops, through making digital products, which is that's my next what I want to get onto. It's just finding the time really. But
oh,
yeah.
so much to juggle. Is that kind of what you're doing with the Junior Herbalist Club?
Oh, the Junior Herbalist Club. So that isn't necessarily digital products. Those would be workshops aimed at children.
Gotcha.
Um,
In
yeah, it's like
person.
a in person. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's aimed at 7 to 12 year olds, but
Okay.
I think sometimes older people might want to join or slightly younger. But it's the whole thing I spoke about before, that I didn't have this knowledge growing up. This was all new to me. And I think it's so important that our children get that knowledge from a young age so that they can grow with it, whether they become herbalists or not. Um, to have that herbal knowledge for their own lives and their families would be amazing.
Yeah.
And she, this junior herbalist is like a 2 year course. So there's level one, you have like 10 lessons a year each month. And each month they learn about a different herb and they make things with it. And their knowledge slowly increases and it's accumulative. So by the end of the year, and then even year two, they know a lot about herbs
That's so
and
cool.
they'll be so interested in it.
So the Junior Herbalist Club is more of like a year long or so actual like class or apprenticeship. Do you have like one-off events where folks could come just for like the day?
Yeah, no, definitely. I used before, like maybe a few years ago, I used to do workshops. That was like
Okay.
my thing. That's where I
Okay.
got my buzz and my passion was able to kind of show in teaching. So I do one-off events like for adults, and I haven't done a one-off event for children yet, but I will start doing that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sophia, I don't know if you know this, but I kind of briefly mentioned it earlier. HerbRally started and still does to this day. We list events, primarily in the United States, but we also do have like
Yeah.
an international herbalism events page. So if I sign up for
Oh.
your newsletter, which I believe I did recently, do you announce when you have these events so I could list them on HerbRally?
I will definitely be announcing them. I'll definitely let you know. That would be perfect. Thank
Heck yeah.
you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, that's kind of our role in the herbal community is just to let people know what's happening. Around the world is the goal, but for now we really kind of niche in the United States. But it's fun when
Yeah.
I hear about other herbalists and other herbalism events happening elsewhere,
Yeah.
UK, etc. So awesome. Well,
Oh, perfect.
all right, well let's get to some tactical things here.
Yeah.
Since you do teach these junior herbalist club classes, is there any exercise or teaching that you would like to give the audience to maybe help teach their kiddos herbalism or any particular tips or tricks in that regard?
Yeah, I think it's really important to keep it fun.
Hmm.
So when you see the junior herbalist club sessions, they're just really fun because sometimes children, especially if they've been at school all day, they don't want to go to like another intense like learning thing.
Yeah.
And when children are having fun, they're learning, but it's really passive. They don't even know that they're learning. So I think it's really important to be really practical. Let them get their hands on the herb. This, smell it, make teas, make soaps, whatever it is that you can make with these herbs. Let them just enjoy it and have
Mm.
fun, and then the learning will be. They won't forget the fun they had, and they'll link that knowledge that you're teaching them in the class to the fun. But they're kind of unaware that they're learning. They're becoming like mini herbalists.
Right.
Yeah,
You trick them into it.
yeah.
Soap is a really good idea too, because the
Yeah,
more you could incorporate senses into the activities, it's going to be well. And then there's the whole memory sense component as well,
yeah,
or smell component. But do you make soap?
yes. So that is one of the things that we make in one of the sessions. Can't remember which herb is in that one, but that is one of them that we
Okay,
make.
sweet. So is it
Yeah.
sophiatheherbalist.com?
Yes,
Okay.
sophiatheherbalist.com.
And all the information about your newsletter and the Junior Herbalist, did I get that right? Oops.
Yes.
Yeah, Junior Herbalist Club. will be on there. I know I checked it out a couple days ago, so we'll leave
Yeah,
links in the podcast and YouTube description as well. Awesome.
perfect.
Well, so you in the UK, you call it a qualified herbalist, correct? That's what
Yeah, or a
med
qualified medical herbalist. I think people say different things, but yeah, medical herbalist.
I interviewed a UK-based herbalist named Megan Rhodes a couple months back, and that was the first time I heard the term qualified herbalist. So, j
Really?
yeah, yeah, we have like a registered herbalist here, or just like community herbalist,
Mm,
that kind of thing. Lots of
yeah.
different titles, but yeah, qualified appears to be pretty common in your neck of the woods. Just curious, what are some of the challenges of becoming a qualified herbalist?
Um, I think I think one of the challenges, and I guess because I already am, I can't speak for someone that is trying to become one.
Right.
But where I studied at somewhere called Middlesex University.
Yeah.
And at the time, there were a few universities that had this program to become a medical herbalist. But now, as it stands, I think there were three universities at the time, but now none of them offer that degree in herbal
Oh,
medicine
wow.
now. I know it's yeah, it's quite sad.
Yeah.
But I think there are different places opening up like avenues for people to study again. I'm like to get diplomas and things like that. But I feel like there needs to be more schools
Hmm.
and more, you know, avenues for people to learn about herbal medicine and learn it to, I guess, the level of being able to practice competently,
For
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the only things. And sometimes what stops people is how they're going to make a living after. That's the question I get a lot. And it's so fair because I think as a herbalist, I've always had something on the side. I've never practiced fully as a herbalist and made a living. I know you can, and some people do it. I've just never been able to. Maybe I haven't got a business bone in my body, but
Well, that makes you a real herbalist.
yeah, it's true, isn't it? It's true, but I think yeah, that can be a bit of a barrier sometimes. But
That's a huge
there's
challenge
different
if you don't
ways.
have, yeah, it's a huge challenge if you don't have access to the education that you need, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
and the United States, so for the listener, you could go to herbrally.com/schools. And there's so many herbalism schools in the United States. So I don't really think that's too much of a problem here. But then again, there's also a lot of online learning
Mm,
opportunities. So I don't know if you think that online is a good replacement for in-person school, but I know there's so much lost when you're not able to study with a mentor in person.
yes, yeah, that's the only thing about online anything really. It's
Yeah,
you get such a richer experience being in person. And I do think there are a lot of I think there are some courses that do hybrid. So there's a
that's
lot of
true.
online learning, but to become a qualified herbalist in the UK, you have to it's mandatory to do clinic hours. So that obviously has to be in person. And sometimes there might be a clinic that they can go to and actually speak to clients and take consultations and treat patients. So that's yeah, that hybrid thing works quite well too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to smell the herbs through the Zoom screen.
Exactly,
Taste them.
exactly.
Yeah.
How is that? Who did you like? How did you study? What
Yeah,
was your
so
experience?
I would say first I started reading books.
Hmm.
And then I started listening to podcasts. Well, one specifically, the Herb Mentor Radio podcast. And then this is all while my herbal passion is growing, right? And then I'm like,
Mm.
you know what sounds really fun is to go on an herb walk. So I went to an herb walk at Mount Pisgah Arboretum with this herbalist named Keith Hess in Eugene,
Mm.
Oregon. And that was just when it just blew wide open for me. And I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, herbs are more than just cut and sifted dried herbs in a mason jar. And
Yeah.
so I took an herb walk, and then I studied. I took maybe like a semester long course through Lane Community College with this guy named KP Kalsa.
Mm.
He's also one of the foremost experts, if you will, in the realm of herbalism, and he happened to be basically my neighbor in Eugene, Oregon. So that was really blessing.
Wow.
But I would say my real apprenticeship came, well, not my real, but my first real like in-depth hyper intensive apprenticeship was through the Columbine School of Botanical Studies, also based in Eugene,
Wow.
Oregon, and that's with Howie Brownstein and at the time Stephen Yeager. But basically, what we
Yeah.
would do is we would have two-ish classes per week, but then once every weekend we would go out in the old growth forest for 5 to 8 hours at a time, and we would be sitting there with the plants in the woods, and we'd be botanizing, we'd be learning herbalism, we'd be learning medicine making on the spot, wild harvesting, all of the above. So the Columbine School is really like the most in-depth. And then a few years later, I studied at the Arctos School of Herbal and Botanical Medicine in Portland, Oregon, which I'm guessing you've heard of Portland before.
Yeah, I have.
Totally.
I
So
do know that.
that's kind of the gist of it, minus I've been to countless herb conferences and studied with lots of herbalists that way, but yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think that what you said about going into the forest for hours at a time and just, I guess, foraging and finding things and kind of connecting with the plants physically, that's so amazing. I think that's sometimes that experience is lost, especially over here in the university school that I went to. I didn't leave feeling as connected with the plants. And that's something that I've had to try and do, and I'm still trying to do after studies.
Yeah.
I think that's such a brilliant way of learning.
Oh yeah. And I was so intimidated at first because I never really had much of a science background. So I was like, botany, I don't know if I can hang. I was really more into like, say, adaptogens and maybe more of the woo-woo side of herbalism. But by the end of that by the end of that 2-year apprenticeship, I'm spitting out Latin names. I mean, to this day, I still say Vancouveria hexandra for the duckfoot and stuff like that. So it was life-changing. Now what used to be that quote-unquote wall of green is lots of different relationships with lots of different plants. So totally life-changing. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think just like the children I spoke about earlier, learning really passively, do you feel going out into the forest and learning the botany that way, it made the Latin less daunting. It just came into your mind passively. And no, you can't forget the Latin names. Sometimes you try to remember the common names, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. It's so much more fun out in the woods too, because if you're learning all this stuff in the classroom through books, and maybe some people really appreciate that style, but if you're just staring at black and white pages of line drawings, it's so much more fun when you're out there with loops and you're feeling and touching the plants and you're looking deep inside of the flower parts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a game changer. But
Brilliant.
thanks for asking about me. That was cool. I gotta go on a little rant there.
Oh no, it's lovely to hear.
Yeah. Is there anything currently in the realm of herbalism that's just exciting you? Or like say nutrition or anything kind of in the health and wellness space that you're like, oh, this is something I'm interested in?
That's a good question.
Or you're just in full-on mom mode right now?
I definitely am in full-on mom mode. I definitely am. I think though, I guess what's interesting me at the moment is, I don't know what to call it, but really looking at the basics, going back to basics. I feel like since like the world has become so small and everybody's like an expert in everything, there's so many, if somebody's just stepping into the realm of health and they're trying to see what they can do to look after their body and what they can do with herbs, they can be overwhelmed. And I think it can be so overwhelming that they might be put off of it and just kind of revert back because they don't know where to start. And I think I always get like messages and questions about this kind of herb that's meant to do this 101 things and how to take it, and it cures all manner of things. And what I'm really passionate about at the moment, or I guess being drawn to, is going back to the basics, because I don't think health and wellness and herbs should be difficult. It should be really simple. It should be easy enough for anybody to be able to do and understand, for that matter. And when people are trying to look for health and find health, they need to be given actionable steps and things that they're able to implicate. So I'm really, even in my own life, I'm trying to go back to the basics and look at the pillars of health or the laws of health, and things like drinking enough water daily, because we want to find all these like special herbs, but exactly, just being hydrated, getting enough exercise and movement, which we sometimes don't do, and it can get really sedentary in our lifestyle sometimes. Being in nature a lot. seeing green, fresh air, enough sleep and rest. So all of those basic things, and using herbs in our everyday lives, like drinking some nettle tea or an oat straw, for example, really often. Just those really basic things are really interesting me at the moment.
I love that. That's such a good point. By the way, oat straw, the herbal audience hears me say this all the time, but I have oat straw infusion probably a few times per week. That is my jam. But
Yeah. Oh,
back
it's
to the
perfect.
back to the basics. Absolutely. I was interviewing someone recently. I can't remember, so apologies, but th- basically I asked, how do you get into herbalism, or how do you, get over that hump? And they suggested just learn 3 herbs, just start with 3 herbs. Like you said,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be this crazy, intimidating thing. Just develop relationships with 3 different herbs. Also,
Mm,
wanted to bring it back to Paul Bergner because I brought him up earlier, but it's funny
yeah.
because when I would take classes with him, a lot of what he would say were these like very science-driven anecdotes based on his years and years of clinical work, lots of different scientific studies, etc. But then the thesis always goes back to exercise, eat well, and sleep. And it was just
Yeah.
always made me laugh because in the end, you could get as sciencey and in the weeds as you want, no pun intended, but you could also just do those basic pillars of health, and it's going to be effective and worthwhile for you.
100%. 100%. It's like you look at a tree, it's the trunk and the roots, and then like the branches kind of come. But if you've got that solid foundation and it just everything just adds on automatically.
That's great. Well, couple more
Mm.
questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
What would you say the mission? Yeah, that's all good. Well, I'll edit that
Sorry.
out. No, you're good. You need some time.
I do.
No, it's all good. What would you say is the mission of your work?
Mm. That's I've got this tagline that I tend to use, and it's like herbal wisdom to nurture you naturally. And it's a bit of a tongue twist.
Okay,
Herbal
so
wisdom to nurture.
to nurture
Go
you
on.
naturally.
Yeah,
I like that.
nurture you naturally. And I think that kind of encompasses my mission. I earlier on I spoke about getting as much people into herbs and the knowledge of herbs as possible. And it's just helping people to be able to use herbs in their daily lives and not think it's some unattainable thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully put. Great tagline.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of good taglines.
Yeah. Thanks.
Herbal wisdom. Herbal. I even said it with the H like y'all over in the UK.
Oh yeah. I love that difference in
It's funny
I've
because
had to say herbal, but
so we're on the Herbalist Hour, and I was interviewing this herbalist, actually also in the UK, named Nicole
Mhm.
Rose. She wrote
Okay.
the Prisoner's Herbal, and she thought it was funny that we say herbalist. But then I was like, "Do you want me to call it the Herbalist Hour?" Like,
I just got that. That's such a yeah. I can't fault that. You've got us there. Yeah,
yeah,
the herbalist
exactly.
power. That's
I like alliteration, so we're gonna
uh
stick with Herbalist Hour or Herbalist
yeah,
Hour,
yeah,
whichever you want. But well, thanks
yeah.
for sharing everything. Where are there any projects you'd like to promote or plug? We'll leave links, of course, in the show notes. Definitely also your Instagram is popping as well, but anywhere you'd like to send the listeners otherwise?
I just think keep a lookout for my website because that's where all of my like links will go. So my website, Instagram, and YouTube. Um, they're all Sophia the Herbalist. So sophiatheherbalist.com, Sophia the Herbalist on Instagram and YouTube. And bear with me, I'm taking my time. I'm trying to be consistent, but I am slowly consistent. But I will be putting more things out there very soon.
Slowly consistent. I like that. When we start
Yeah,
setting these expectations for ourselves, like I'm going to do this every single day, then you feel like a failure. And so a
yeah,
lot of times when people are like, "Oh, I want to start a YouTube channel, I want to start a podcast," I'm like, set an easy goal, once every
yeah,
month. Once every month. If
yeah.
you do it once a month, you're still consistent. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Slowly consistent. Yeah, I love that
That's
too.
great. Well, this has been an
Oh,
absolute blast. Really stoked to get to know you, Sophia. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
you too. Thanks, Mason.
You bet. Well, Shout out to all you listeners out there. Appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment with any takeaways you may have had. And shout out and thanks to Amanda for editing. And we will see you all in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our HerbRally YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an HerbRally Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herbally.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our HerbRally Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herbally.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode and take care.